Hi, first graders. In today's video, we're going to learn about telling time to the half hour. So just a quick review to start. We have two hands on an analog clock. We have the short hand, which is the hour hand, and we have the long hand, which is the minute hand. So far, we've learned that the short hand will point to an hour, and we read that first. And then we've looked at when the minute hand is pointing up to the top towards the 12, which we say o'clock. So for example, this clock says 8 o'clock. We also know that on a digital clock that looks like this up in the corner, we have an 8 for the hour, 2 dots which separate the hour and the minute, and the 2 zeros which represent the o'clock or 0 minutes so far in the hour. In our very first video when we were talking about an analog clock, we noticed that there were little lines all the way around the outside of the clock. And so if we were to count those, you could pause the video if you want and count those. There will be 60 of them that go all the way around your clock. And so as the minute hand moves around clockwise, that's why we call it clockwise, because that's the way that the clock goes, you'll notice that the hour hand is moving just a little bit, and eventually when it gets all the way around, when the minute hand gets all the way around, back up to the 12, the hour hand has moved to the next hour. So as we're looking at half hour today, you'll notice that the hour hand isn't necessarily going to point right to the number that it is, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So as we look at the minute hands, instead of counting each and every single one, which we could do, a faster way to do that is if we look at the big numbers that represent the hours, or we can see that there's bigger lines that correspond with those, that shows us where 5 minutes is. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So each big number is right next to the 5th mark around the outside, or 5 minutes. So to count a little bit faster, we could count by fives. So we could go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, and 60. So we know that there's 60 minutes in an hour. Today we're going to focus on what we call the half hour. So if we took the number 60 and we split it into two even groups, there would be 30 and 30. So there are 30 minutes in a half hour. So let's see where the long hand would land, the minute hand would land if we had 30 minutes. Let's see, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So if we were to move that minute hand down to where 30 was, halfway around the clock, then you can see it's pointing to the 6. So we can double check again, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. If you want to pause the video and double check that we went past 30 little marks around the outside for each minute, then you absolutely can, but I'm not going to take the time to do that right now. So anytime that the clock has the long hand or the minute hand pointing down to the 6, we say that it is 30, because that's 30 minutes. So you can see in the digital clock up here, right now it says it's 9 for the hour, and then the number 30 for the minutes that is an hour. So we say 9:30. Another thing I want to point out to you is the hour hand. Like I was saying, as the minute hand is moving around the clock, the hour hand is moving at a slower pace so that it goes between the 2 hours by the time the minute hand goes all the way around. So you'll notice that when the minute hand is halfway around at the half hour or at 30, that the hour hand should be halfway between the 2 hours. So this shows us that right now it is halfway between 9 and 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock. So an important thing to remember is that clockwise goes around starting at the top and goes to the right around the clock. And so as you're going past, when you're looking at that hour hand, it's still that hour, up until it gets to the next one. So if the hour hand is right here in between the 9 and the 10, if I'm thinking about the order that it goes around the clock in, it's already past the 9, so I know it's still 9, but it hasn't reached the 10 yet, so I know it's still 9 as well. It won't be 10 until the hour hand has pointed directly to the 10 or gone past. So right now it's past the 9, but not quite to the 10. So it is 9, and the minute hand is down towards the 6, which means it's halfway through, so 9:30. If I move it again, let's say that I look here. So right now, the hour hand, which we always start with, is between the 11 and the 12. So again, if I think about the order in which it goes around the clock, it's past the 11, but not quite to the 12 yet. So we know that it's still in the 11th hour of the day, and that the minute hand is down here towards the 6. So we know that that's 30 minutes later. So it's 11:30. We can see that represented on the digital clock here with the 11 on the left side and the 30 on the right side. All right, so I am going to move my clock, and I want you to write what time it would be on the digital clock. So I'm going to take this digital clock away so you can't see it. I'll put it back up in a minute. All right, so you can pause and get your materials if you need to. Oops. All right, I've moved my analog clock. So I want you to write your digital time of what it would say on the digital clock. So looking here, if I'm thinking it goes around this way, it's past the 3, but not to the 4. So I know that it is 3. And the minute hand is pointing down to the 6, so that would be 30. So the time would be 3:30. Let's check the digital clock. Should be looking just like this. So yours should have 3, 2 dots, and then the number 30. Let's try another one. I'm not going to help you this time. So I'll move the clock. All right. You write on yours, what time do you think it is? I'll give you a couple of seconds, or you can pause the video. When you have your time written, you can play again and see what it is. All right, looking at where the clock is, it's past the 11, but not to the 12 yet, so I know it's the 11th hour. And then that minute hand is pointing down. I could count by 5s, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So I know that it is 11:30. Let's double check. It should look like this. All right, now we're going to go the other way before we move on to double check your understanding. Once you're feeling confident, then you can go do your job for the day. But let's do a couple the other way. Now I'm going to tell you what time I want it to say on the clock, and you need to move your clock to make the hands match. So if you need to go pause and grab a clock, then you can go do that and play the video when you're ready. All right, now that you have everything that you need, I want you to show me on the clock what 8:30 would look like. Again, pause the video, make your clock say 8:30, and you can play when you're ready. All right, when I am making 8:30, I want the hour hand to be by the 8, and then the minute hand needs to be down here, oops, pointing towards the 6 or down by 30. So it should be halfway between the 8 and the 9. The hour hand, and then the minute hand should be pointing down to the 6 or the 30. So this is 8:30. All right, let's try one more before you go off and work on your own. Let's have you show me what the clock would look like if it is 1:30. If I'm making it 1:30, I know that the hour hand has to be to the 1 and a little bit past. It's going to go about halfway through. And my minute hand is going to be at the 30.